So when someone says to you, you're calling, you're doing your BD, and they're like, yeah, could you send me some information? You say no. There needs to be a healthy pause at the point that you say no, because they're not expecting you to say no. They are expecting you to say, yes, I'll send you this and this and this, or what would you like? They're not expecting the no. And instantly, the level of respect that the person's going to have for you is going to go up.
Hi, I'm Kortney Harmon, Director of Industry Relations at Create. Welcome to another episode of the Full Desk Experience. Hey everyone, in case you missed it, we recently hosted a live virtual event, and it was one for the books. We brought together some of the best thought leaders in the recruiting and staffing industry for 2 full days of real, no-fluff conversations and what's actually working right now. From building trust with clients, to using AI without losing your edge, to growing revenue through relationships. These sessions were absolutely incredible, and we didn't want you to miss out. So we turned every single session into its own episode. And over the coming weeks, we're dropping them one by one right here. Each episode is a standalone session from the event. So whether you're tuning in for the first time or you were there live and you want to revisit all of your favorites, there's something for you. Stay tuned. You're going to want to hear from every single one of our speakers. Trust me. Enjoy.
Welcome, everybody. This is More Essentials, bringing you flipping scripts, counterintuitive recruiting strategies.
Coming to you live on tape.
Yeah,
I'm going to let them go. I'm going to jump.
Live. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to just watch us on a recording. And thank you to Create for having us. We are delighted to be here with you virtually.
We've spent a lot of time practicing the exact speed to talk in case you listen to us on fast forward.
That would actually be a lot of fun to do, wouldn't it?
You got to talk a little bit slower, just a little bit. So this is our contact information. By now, you've probably figured out that I am Jason.
And I am Tricia, and it is a pleasure to meet you. This is what we put out for our formal pictures. This is what we really look like. And we're not the kind of trainers that are like, hey, we're going to tell you our whole life story. It's not why you're here. You're here to learn how to make your desk better. So we're not going to do the introductions. You can learn a lot about us online or just reach out directly to either one of us. We are, though, going to tell you a little bit about what to expect in today's session. So Kortney's going to get you a recording. You will, obviously, you're watching this on a recording, so you clearly have it.
The deck itself will be made available, and it is just these slides. There's not any sort of secret workbook or anything like that.
Yeah. Now, if you have questions, Jason and I love being with you live, but because we're not here live with you, you can't interrupt us to ask questions. What you can do, though, is start an email as you're watching. And if you have any questions or comments or anything that you'd like to share with us, please don't hesitate to do so. We love those kinds of emails. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Let's get one thing out of the way that I think is critically important, given the name of this program is Flipping Scripts.
Flipping Scripts is not flip recruiting. For those who don't know what flip recruiting is, it's basically calling into C-suite, pretending you have an opening so that they will talk to you and then finding out if they're available, right? It's a dishonest approach to a relationship. And there have been a bunch of rom-coms made about starting a relationship on a bad note like that. And in real life, it doesn't work out happily.
It really doesn't. Please don't ever start a relationship, any kind, whether it's your desk or a rom-com. Don't start it under false pretenses. The idea that you would try to demonstrate how skilled you are in that interview with someone in the C-suite and then somehow be able to flip that into a BD call, like sometimes that kind of transition happens organically. And we'll talk about that later on in today's session. But don't ever start a relationship lying to someone. It is, I don't think, who any of you want to be as people.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well.
No, it doesn't. So let's talk about other things that don't bode well, right? Have you ever heard this?
Never disclose the name of your client until you fully interviewed the candidate, even if they're pressing you like, hey, you know what? Like they might, see an ad or, get the call from you and just be like, yeah, well, I'm not talking to you until you tell me what the company is. Well, no, you're just hang up on them if you have to. We don't agree with this.
We don't agree with this. Do you know what? Even though you might be an exceptional recruiter, the candidate that you're talking to has clearly had a lot of experience with less qualified recruiters, and they're trying to be respectful of their own time. So how about instead we honor it? Okay. And we say, yeah, okay. I think that's a terrific idea. I'd be happy to share the name of my client. Let's get an NDA in place.
Now there's, we'll certainly give you scripts for this, but I want you to think about the psychology a little bit of somebody asking you, hey, what's the name of the client? And instead of saying no or giving the name of the client, what you're able to do is say, yes, let me send an NDA over for you to sign. Try to tell me that they're not going to be extra super curious now that they have this.
Right. It differentiates you as a recruiter, right? Because no one asks for a non-disclosure agreement, or at least very few people in our industry do this.
And theoretically, it does kind of protect you because sometimes people go out and they find the name of the company. And what they try to do is see if they've got a friend working there, get in on their own, and oh, wait, not if they got an NDA.
They can't do it because by the very nature of non-disclosure, they wouldn't be able to disclose their knowledge of the opening, even to the company that has the opening. So it does protect you, but it's a wonderful script to use when you're on the phone with a candidate that pushes you, right? So we've got two different versions here. I tend to go with the first version myself, but I'm a little bit more flowery in my language. And so I will say to somebody like, hey, John, I am not going to give you some kind of song and dance about all the jobs I have or why I can't tell you. Of course, I'll tell you. How else are we going to do business together? I'm going to send you an NDA. Once we have that signed, both of us are going to feel comfortable. I use DocuSign. What's the best email address for me to send that to you? Now, I don't give them an opportunity. Like that's one script, start to finish. It's not a conversation.
Yeah, at any point that there is going on here, you'll see with both of these, in fact, with a lot of our scripts, we're starting from a very improv-based yes and. Oh, you need to know the name of the client and your time is valuable. I respect that. I'll send over an NDA, you sign it, and I'll tell you who my client is. What's the best email for me to use? It's shorter, it's to the point, and it's just agreeing with what they're saying. They want to know this. Why do they want to know this right now? They're curious. Their time is valuable. They've had their time wasted by recruiters before. It doesn't even matter. They're asking for something and you can provide it, but by providing it, actually make the job seem more interesting.
It really does. Now, Jason and I are not attorneys, and nothing that we are sharing with you should be construed as legal advice. Please seek your own legal counsel before you give anybody anything to sign in a contractual form. I say that, and AI is your friend.
No.
We're not looking for anything super fancy here. Get it approved by your attorney. But we're talking a straight up standard non-disclosure agreement is going to serve your purpose here. So when a candidate says to you, who's your client? The answer is, yeah, I'll tell you. First, sign the NDA. All right. So we're not going to say no to candidates anymore. We're going to say yes.
Here's something that I'm not going to say yes to, though. Send me some information. This is a request for a pamphlet. Just give me your pamphlet. And how a lot of recruiters react to this is, okay, well, I'll send you my case studies and my history of working in this industry, and I'll send you everything that I have to tell you what a great recruiter I have. And maybe I've got a document that's got testimonials, and you're giving it to somebody who's telling you to go away.
Right. Maybe if they're a really good recruiter, they don't do that. And instead they say something like, I would be happy to send you information. What do you want? Right. And instead of trying to pile it on, they try to narrow it down and see it and try to dig in there a little bit. Yeah.
And then they have a panic if the person says, well, what I really want is this, and they don't have half of it.
Right. So when someone says to you, like you're calling, you're doing your BD, and they're like, yeah, could you send me some information? You say no. You didn't lose the audio. That was only like 3 seconds. Okay. But there needs to be a healthy pause at the point that you say no, because they're not expecting you to say no. They are expecting you to say, yes, I'll send you this and this and this, or what would you like? They're not expecting the no. And instantly, the level of respect that the person's going to have for you is going to go up. You're going to hold the boundary, right? So as soon as they say, send me more information, you say no with a pause. Phil, we don't send out information. I am an exceptional recruiter in the engineering space, and our clients look at a lot of options and they choose us for good reason. Like, if you want something specific, I could provide it. Like, is that what you want, or were you just trying to get me off the phone? Right? It's a nice way to go and say, first pattern interrupt. No, I'm not going to do that. Then you can put a little bit of a pitch in there. We're exceptional. People choose us because of that. What is it that you need? Or are you just trying to throw my pamphlet in the garbage? Like, what's happening? You need this information in order to figure out if the call is possible to move forward.
Yeah, I think this is one of these areas where an element of this got us thinking at one point, and it's the idea of, were you just trying to get me off the phone? Tricia and I now have a technique where we will start calls with, this is a cold call and you can hang up if you want. It's disarming and honest, and it takes the power of the hang up away. But sometimes the hang up's rude.
Yeah, sometimes it is. So, have you ever heard of this happening? And I mean, be honest, if you've been a recruiter for more than like 30 minutes, you have heard somebody do this before. We get hung up on. Like, we're going to get hung up on, and it has nothing to do with you as a person or you as a recruiter. It has everything to do with the person you're calling having a bad day. That's what happens when they hang up on you. And common advice for this is to ignore the fact that you've been hung up on, to call the person back instantly and be like, stupid. Like, oh, I think we might have been disconnected.
Yeah, we're like 30 years into cell phones being pretty commonplace. But they don't drop that often anymore. And it just seems like a snotty thing to say.
It's really like passive aggressive combative, right? It is.
You must have gotten disconnected.
Yeah, you didn't get disconnected, and everybody involved knows that you did not get disconnected.
First of all, it is going, like, if somebody called you up after you hung up on them and said that, are you now more or less willing to do business with them?
Less willing. Oh my God. I would be so irritated if somebody
and you can't take a hint.
Clearly you can't read the room, right? We're never doing business together. Everybody knows this, right? Now, remember, when they hang up on you, if they're mean to you, it has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with them and the kind of day that they're having in that very moment that you call them, okay? They're having a bad day. Sometimes what happens is we call someone and they're having such a bad day that instead of just hanging up on us, they give us a string of expletives, call us nasty names, and then they hang up on us, right? Like, it doesn't happen often, but it absolutely happens. And if it hasn't happened to you, get ready, because it will. Okay. We are interrupting people and they sometimes react poorly. If that happens to you, ring the bell and celebrate, because you can only use this next technique when it happens to you. You can't make this happen. It's a response or a reaction to somebody being very rude to you.
And this is the handwritten card, and this is one Tricia business in the past.
Yes, it does.
This seems silly. Now, in it, we're in the extreme example. If somebody has been fully profane, but understand it doesn't just work for that. Like, if they simply hung up on you, they are probably feeling a couple days go by, the mail arrives, and they're going to feel a little bit like a jerk. And that's the idea here, is to not call them a jerk, but to let them come to the guilty sense of that on their own.
And then by doing so, you shift the power dynamic, right? Now they're coming back to you a little bit hat in hand, which means that you're in a much better position to negotiate, to interact, to move the deal forward, right? Whether this is a candidate or a client. I did close a deal on this and it does work. I want to tell you, all of us have been the jerk sometimes. All of us have been having a bad day and snapped at a person that didn't deserve it. Every one of us at some point has done that. And I want you to put yourself in that moment. And then I want you to imagine receiving a handwritten card from somebody that says, I've been thinking about you since you were really mean to me. And I'm sure you were having a bad day. And I hope your day got better, right? You'd feel like a jerk and you'd contact that person back because the guilt would make you do it. And we are not above, guilting somebody who is mean to you in order to move the deal forward. Okay, it works.
Now, there are people in the universe who have a greater tendency to come off like this, who might be more likely to hang up on you, tell you to F off, or in some other way be rude. Those are the clients to get. Number one, they scare off most other recruiters. Ooh, this was challenging. Number two, once you've satisfied them, they become your biggest champion. No, this has to be done exactly the way Jason does it, because this is how I'm used to it. These people are not used to being satisfied. And if you can satisfy them, you have a client for life. Even if they change companies, now you've got 2 clients for life.
Right. Now, if they actually used profanity, just as a side note, you don't use the asterisk when you write the letter to them. Write out whatever they actually said to you, no matter how profane it is. That's part of what drives the guilt. And we just didn't want to write the word out on the screen while we're training you.
We're civilized like that.
We try to be civilized, right? All right, let's go to the next one. Does this ever happen to you? Like, you are doing your business development, you are in sales mode, you are dialing for dollars, you get someone, you start talking to them, and they say to you, oh, yeah, I'm so glad you called. Like, I'm looking for a recruiter for me, right? That's how it shows up. And you're like, I'm doing business development. I don't need another candidate. I don't actually find jobs for people. I find people for jobs. But sure, Mr. Hiring Manager, even though I was calling you for business development, I'd be happy to change everything around what we're talking about so that I can accommodate you.
And I'll tell you, because I've actually seen a version of this fumbled even harder than that. I was sitting with a recruiter. They were doing their dialing, actually trying to find a tax manager. And when they got to a tax manager, that tax manager was fairly senior and said, oh, thank goodness, I needed a recruiter. I actually need to hire 3 people. And what he said instead was, oh, well, this isn't going to work out. I was calling to recruit you. he gave up like 1 bird in the bush and 3 birds in the bush all at the same time. And you can have both.
You can. So you've got to set it up right, though, right? Like, I know I kind of went off on my tangent of, oh, this is awful. You really want me to do this? Because that's what it feels like for us as recruiters. But as soon as you have the indication from the person that wants to be your candidate, as long as we set it up right, you'll be able to bring it back to BD. Okay. So once you feel it or they say it to you directly, switch, but call it out directly and completely. Like, Bill, I'm sensing that you are less than satisfied in your current role. And you know what? That's way more important than the purpose of my call. So why don't we shift gears? What's going on? Now, what's important here is if you don't say that's more important than the purpose of my call, you have to drop that phraseology in there to set yourself up later to actually do even more effective business development. Okay.
Yeah, normally we're just shifting gears at this point, but we got a little need for a callback here so that we can call it back.
Right. So once you hand it to them on that beautiful silver platter and say, oh, you are way more important than the purpose of my call, what's going on? You're going to do a really good recruiting call, fully interview the person, right? Like just as you normally would, center them, ask them the important questions, dig in deeper, be the recruiter you are. Okay.
And then once you have all that information, thanks, Bill, or whatever their name is, I think I have a good sense of the type of role you're most interested in. Should a position like this come across my desk, would you be all right if I called and told you about it? Of course, they're going to say yes. Excellent. So can we go back to the original purpose of my call? That's why you needed it earlier.
That's why you have to drop the phraseology at the beginning, because otherwise you don't have the transition back to it at the end, right? Now, this isn't flip marketing, okay? This is centering the person that you're talking to and letting them drive the conversation without giving up your purpose. When you made the call to the person, you were looking at doing business with that company. That was the purpose of your call.
And when you ended that call, you were still looking to do business with that company. You took care of their needs without diverting from yours or approaching it dishonestly.
Right. So we want to be straightforward, keep the candidate and or client centered, and still not drop the ball, right? Don't drop the ball on this. Set it up so that you can revisit it later. Now, have you ever heard this?
We need to avoid human resources at all costs. HR, more like human refuse. Am I right? Ha ha ha. Like I have heard so many versions of this in my time training recruiters, and it's silly. Even, even 20 years ago, they were a major player in talent. And we are putting ourselves in a position where we are against our natural ally, the other person who is responsible internally. This could be their internal talent people. This could be HR. This could be HR working with their internal talent people. But why would we make them an adversary?
We never should make them an adversary. In fact, we'll make the argument that you should bring them into the deal. Okay. Like Jason said, I mean, it's been decades. I get it. If you've been a recruiter for a long time, I've been a recruiter for 30 years. Next year will be 30 years. That's a long time. And you know what? When I started, HR did not have a seat at the grown-up table. They did benefits administration. They handled maybe some minor training or making sure that reviews got done. That was the role of HR. And they weren't able to sit at that grown-up table, but they do now. They do now. They're involved in the strategic direction of organizations. They're involved in succession planning. Let's be fair. We charge a lot of money for our recruiting services, right? And if we're going to charge a lot of money for our recruiting services, we have to expect that the companies that we're charging are going to try and bring those services in-house and save money. And so they hire internal TA to do it. That is a good business decision on their part. And we all also know that internal TA and HR can't do what all of us can do. They can't. They're just not capable and qualified. But why are we fighting with them about it? They still need us. And so we should still serve them. Like, is it harder with the game of telephone if you have to deal with HR or TA and you're not direct to your hiring manager? Of course it is. There's a whole nother layer of possible confusion. But don't be adversarial with them. Bring them into the deal, right? Ask your hiring manager, like, what's the role of HR? Like, do we need to get them involved? Do you want to make an introduction for me? Right? When you get on the phone with HR, tell them directly that you are different from other recruiters. Like you might be aware, Cindy, that a lot of my peers avoid people in your role. They won't work with companies where they have to interact directly with HR. They think that you get in the way, that you guys are causing a lot of problems, that you're injecting yourself into situations you don't belong in. And I disagree. As a recruiter, the resources I deal with are human. You have hires that you need to make, and my job is to make you look good and lift some of that load. So why don't we start off with your expectations of me as a recruiter, and we can see if it makes sense for us to keep talking.
Now, I certainly can say it is okay to drop the second sentence. Now,
I like it a little.
It is. Tricia did a little knife twisting kind of motion. But it's also like saying to somebody, hey, you might be aware that most of my friends avoid people like you constantly. They think that you smell funny, you don't have good hygiene, that you're kind of funny looking, and you put yourself in situations where you don't belong. But I disagree. So I'm just saying you can drop the whole little turn the knife line and it'll still deliver just fine.
It will deliver. Oh, it will deliver just fine, right? But it's a little fun, right? And they have heard it, right? Anytime you can say something out loud that someone's thinking before they say it out loud, your credibility goes through the roof. So always try to predict what other people are thinking and say it.
Plus, it's your chance to actually insult HR to their face.
And be nice about it, right?
Sure.
Something a little fun about that. All right. So I mentioned this already, but you can also do it on the phone with your hiring manager. Like, how is HR perceived? What is their role? Is there a benefit to bringing them in? Can you introduce me? I think I did that whole script just like a couple slides too early, right?
Sure.
All right. So be nicer to HR. When they change jobs, they'll take you with them, right? When they are your advocate, if we start to see a dip in the economy, what's going to happen is first, companies are going to have to cut the number of vendors that they work with. And don't think for a minute that HR isn't part of who's making those decisions. You want them to like you. And I would recommend that you go out of your way to take steps in order to encourage them to like you, right?
They should like you more than other recruiters, right?
They sure should. All right, let's do another one.
I imagine that you have heard how important it is to negotiate exclusivity. They should be relying on you to fill this role, because what if they try to fill it internally or anything else, then you don't get your money. What if they hire another recruiter? In fact, you should have retained exclusive C-suite roles. That is the filet mignon of recruiting, and nothing else will do. But it's also a little bit of nonsense. There's not enough filet to go around. And this isn't actually in your client's best interest.
It really isn't. Like, think about it. Try to put yourself in their shoes, right? Let's say it's the CEO of a startup company and he needs somebody in a go-to-market role. Like, is it really in his best interest to only work with one recruiter? I mean, we can all make the argument for why it is, but does that mean that he should reject the employee referral? Like, should he say, no, you know what? I made a decision to work with this recruiter. So this trusted employee that I have that knows somebody that they think is really good. Nope. As the CEO, I'm going to abide by my contract to this vendor that I've never done business with before that demanded exclusivity. And instead, I'm going to reject the employee referral. Like, that would just be stupid.
And you made it nice, just an employee referral. It could be their own referral. What if their son comes along and says, you know what, Dad, I think I do want to take that vice presidential role we talked about. Well, then who cares what your contract says?
Right? It's silly of us. Like, we're coming from fear when we force exclusivity, right? Do I want you to have exclusivity? Yes, I do want you to have exclusivity, but I want you to earn it. I want it to be a situation where the client says, you know what? I'm only going to work with Jason. When I only work with Jason, everything goes swimmingly. If they make that decision, wonderful. But for us to make that decision and then to impose it on a potential client or worse, an existing client, right? It doesn't make any sense for us to push something that is so clearly one-sided only in our direction.
It's like getting on a dating app and saying, I'm not going to date anyone that's on the dating apps. What are you doing here? Who do you think you're going to find?
It's really kind of,
No, it's only got to be one-sided.
it's backwards, right? Like you hear us talk about centering the other person. That's how you build trust. It's how you build loyalty, is by centering them. And when you go in and say, I only do this with exclusivity, you're not centering them. You're saying, I'm scared that I'm not going to be able to find the right person. And so I want to limit you as much as I possibly can to increase the likelihood of me making a fee. Like that is so self-centered.
And it adds weight. It adds another thing that they have to agree to. It adds another thing that they might have to put to legal. It's another reason for them to consider someone else.
Right. So don't do that, right? Here's what you say instead. You know what, John? I mean, I know a lot of recruiters push for exclusivity, but not us. You have a job to fill. And I mean, of course, I would like to think that it would be my candidate that you ultimately choose. But I mean, let's be fair. The important thing is filling the role. I want you to use all available resources to find the person you need. Like you don't know me yet. Soon, you'll probably learn that it's easier to only work with me. But that'll be your choice and one that you should make after we've worked together. So, I mean, I'm just not really about arranged marriages.
Now, I will drop a little insider secret for you. We are big on engaged fees. So if you want to start working with us, it takes a few $1,000s up front. It's skin in the game money, right? This means that if they do go ahead and they hire that nepotism son hire that I talked about earlier, you get paid, $3,000, $5,000, whatever.
10, 15, whatever the engagement fee is.
But even if it's two, like a small number like that means they're significantly less likely to even talk to another recruiter.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? All right. So don't push for exclusivity. Use your lack of need for exclusivity as competitive differentiation. Oh, I went too fast there. All right. Have you ever heard this one before? Like the shorter the guarantee, the better. Like I'm super, super guilty of this.
No guarantee. You made the decision. That's our standard.
Yeah. I mean, I've told clients for decades that like, hey, my payment terms are net 30. If the person doesn't last until the invoice is due, don't pay it. Like I'm not going to hold you to that if they don't make it in the first 30 days. But
and if you don't think they're going to make it first 90 days or something, don't hire them.
Right. Like, so when someone first asks you for a guarantee, ask them to explain it to you, like what it is they're looking for, or ask them instantly, well, do you have an attrition problem? Right? Like, let's change again the power dynamic with them. You need a 90-day guarantee? Like, are people leaving once they start? That feels like a bigger problem that maybe we haven't addressed yet.
You haven't mentioned this before. What's going on? And now, instead of putting you on the spot to come up with a better guarantee, they're on the spot to explain why their hiring is a problem. Typically, the answer you'll get there is going to be something closer to, Oh, no. We make fine hiring decisions and people only rarely leave. But like one time there was this recruiter, you want to hear that story. Like if they want to complain about past recruiters, let them.
Always let them.
They are telling you how to serve them.
Yes, they are. I like to say to somebody when they are pushing for a guarantee, like, I don't really understand. Like, I didn't decide that the role needed to be filled. I didn't write the description. I don't make the hiring decision. I don't show up and perform on the job. I don't manage the person that shows up and performs on the job. Like, what are you actually asking me to guarantee? That that you make a good hiring decision? Like, how would I do that? Right? Like, I like to throw the logic at them, but you don't have to do what I did for the vast majority of my career, which is reject the guarantee. That's what I've always done, is reject it and just say, no, I'm not guaranteeing your ability to make a good hiring decision. I'm not. That isn't actually the best way to do it in the long run. There's a better way, right? Instead of rejecting it, why don't we give it to them as an enormous guarantee?
Right. So we can, have it be a marketing spend in terms of what happens 5 years from now is they come to you. They say something like, hey, that product manager, they left and you had a guarantee and I feel like I still have 10% of that left.
So wait, does that mean that 5 years later, a client that you've already serviced, that you're not working with regularly, comes to you and says, hey, I'm supposed to get a 10% discount off of my fee? Like, that's not 10% of 25. That's like 3,000 off of 30,000, right? Like, so
Well, it's been 5 years. It's probably 32,000.
Right.
Right. Because the fee goes up because pay goes up because it's 5 years later. So effectively, you're about getting the same fee, except what you didn't have to do was repeatedly call the client to try to get them to be on the same board, to be like, okay, well, I guess I am finally replacing Mary now that she's left. Okay, well, can I get a discount since we've worked together in the past? Because they're going to ask anyway most of the time.
They do. And I mean, if you think about it, like, think about what the longest guarantee is that you've ever offered. Like, we've talked about 0 guarantee, net 30, 5 years, right? But standard tends to be about 90 days, right?
Sometimes you'll hear the full year.
But I like a full year guarantee. I mean, a full year, here's how a full year guarantee would play out. Let's say that the job for easy math was a $60,000 fee. Okay. They have to pay the fee for this type of guarantee. I would give them net 10. Okay. 10 days after the close, they have to pay the full $60,000. Now, if the person leaves in the first month, you have literally only earned $5,000 of that fee based on this prorated schedule. So you would have to replace the person, but you get to keep 5,000 of it. That's how it works each month. If it's 10 months in, then you replace the person and they get a $10,000 discount for the last 2 months.
Now, it is important. Tricia's saying replace the person. It's like a replacement credit. So they get, $5,000 more off the shorter the amount of time the person stays there. They don't get anything off at year 2 in that case. But why don't we give a really long guarantee?
Yeah. So here's what how you can structure a 5-year.
So in fact, I might at the end of this reword it to a 10-year, since we're talking about long guarantees. So let me take a moment to explain our 10-year no fault replacement guarantee. If at any point in the first year your new employee leaves or is let go for any reason, we'll replace that person applying a 50% credit from the last hire. In year 2, it becomes a 40%. In year 3, it's 30%. In year 4, it's 20%. And from years 5 through 10, you still get a 10% credit. You won't find any other recruiter that stands by their work for a 10-year guarantee.
Whew, gives me goosebumps, right? Like, because for real, why don't we take the thing that causes us so much pain in our industry, flip it upside down, and make it competitive differentiation, make it a sales asset instead of negotiating pain, right?
Right. People tend to feel like this hurts the most when somebody leaves around year 3. So using Tricia's previous $30,000 fee, that becomes $21,000.
That they still
would
have to pay, right?
To come directly back to you 3 years later without you spending 3 years of marketing, right? Just with you having a guarantee. And some of them are going to forget the guarantee. That's just normal in business. I've probably got 1 million I've never mailed in.
How about it? All right, let's do another one. Do you know this statistic? Right? I feel like even though you're not in the room with us, I can feel all of you shaking your head. Yes.
You've shared this statistic.
80% of people who accept a counteroffer are no longer employed within 6 months.
Bullshit.
So that is such nonsense, guys. And it's fun. Like when AI came out, Jason went down this rabbit hole and did all sorts of research to try and figure it out.
Yes. Well, what I wanted to do was get to the original source of this statistic. And so I sent AI research modes and multiple models onto this task. And initially, if you don't do deep research, what you get is search firms that are sharing this information on their website. If it does deep research and it takes some time, what you find is that this has been only really shared and verified by search firms, that nobody actually has good statistics on who accepts counter offers, how long they stay there, because we don't track anything like that. Like you aren't actually tracking the people who accept a counter. Like it doesn't work that way. It never has. And when they've studied it, the numbers are way less than this. So instead of having real numbers for like 30 years, recruiters have just given made up numbers.
So stop making up numbers. And hey, you weren't doing anything wrong. You thought they were real numbers. I thought they were real numbers. They're not. They're made up numbers. And the problem is every single one of our candidates knows someone, either they themselves got a counteroffer that they took, or they know someone who got a counteroffer that was accepted, and it was a great move. So as soon as you start telling the candidate, no, don't take a counteroffer. This is a terrible idea. It feels self-serving to the candidate because it is, right? So we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to lean into the counteroffer, okay? When you say to a candidate, let's talk counteroffers. Like, what do you think? Are they going to make you a counteroffer? And the candidate says to you, no, I never take a counteroffer. I know what a bad idea that is. I want you to disagree with them. In that moment, while you're prepping for a counteroffer, I want you to disagree. I want you to say to them, wow, you know what, Billy, like I would be remiss as your advisor if I didn't point out to you that this is the single most amount of leverage that you are ever going to have in any negotiation with this company is right now. Like, I think we should explore it. I'd like you to still take the offer from my client, and I'm expecting that you will, but wow, like I don't want to miss this opportunity. What if they can give you everything that you want?
So in this case, what we have is somebody that is probably trying to tell you what they think you want to hear. And instead, I want them to daydream with you. Isn't there something they could offer you which would cause you to change your mind? What if it was like double your current salary and you work from home and $100,000 retention bonus and you don't have to report to that boss you hate anymore?
Right?
Would you accept that counteroffer?
You want to make it big, okay? You want to set the bar super, super high, okay? We're anchoring the candidate like
to a counteroffer that's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen, right? So that's your job. Your job is to push them to dream a little bit with you and to say, well, I mean, yeah, if they doubled my salary, no, I still don't think I would stay. Well, I mean, what if they quadrupled your salary? Well, you're making 100 right now. What if they bumped your salary to $400,000? Are you really telling me you wouldn't stay for a year? I mean, that's life-changing money. And you'll be able to get the candidate to a number or to circumstances where they would accept it. The more far-fetched those circumstances are, the more secure your deal is, okay?
First of all, hearing them, the harder it is for them to agree. If they're like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I would accept a $10,000 counteroffer. Like, Well, that's nothing. You're going to get that. Like, we need to set the standard high. And by getting somebody to daydream with us, I like to think of this as the lottery discussion. What would you do if you won Powerball and you had just hundreds of millions of dollars? Now, I don't actually want you to answer that question right now because I can't hear you. What I want you to do is think about who you've had that kind of discussion with. And it's probably somebody close to you. You don't have that discussion with strangers. And so now what we're doing is we're friending ourselves. We're putting ourselves into a discussion that they would typically have with somebody closer to them.
Right. So your goal in this situation is to prep your candidate to the point that when their boss says, "Oh no, Billy, you're leaving. What could we do to keep you here?" I want your candidate to look their boss dead in the eye and say, "I've given this a lot of thought. If you double my salary, give me a hybrid work environment where I'm only in the office 2 days a week, and I would prefer to not report to you. I'd like to report to your boss. Do you think a counteroffer is going to be made?" It's not. Like, we can completely preclude the opportunity of a counteroffer while aligning with our candidate, making our candidate feel like we do have their best interest at heart, that we are helping them with this. They feel more loyal. They're more aligned with us. And the company can't come up with the counteroffer that your candidate is asking for, right?
Even if your candidate doesn't have the guts, they're still going to have very high standards that your competitive offers aren't going to be able to meet.
Right. So that brings us just kind of to our summary. Okay. These are the scripts that we want you to flip. Yeah. I'll tell you my client name, sign an NDA. You need information?
No. I'm not going to create a pamphlet just for you to throw away.
You were rude to me, but I'd still like to do business with you. I'm thinking about you and I hope your day got better.
Hey, can you just get me out of here instead of me doing business with you?
Right. I think that embracing human resources and having you involved in the deal makes everything go smoother for me. I like human resources.
I think exclusivity is an unnecessary piece of friction that we add to a deal when instead it would be faster and already filled if we weren't still arguing about it.
Oh, you want a guarantee? Yeah, we completely stand behind our work. We can talk about guarantees that range from a year to 5 years, sometimes even 10 years. First, tell me why it's important, right?
Instead of trying to block somebody's kung fu of counteroffers, we accept it and pull them so hard in that direction that it doesn't make sense for them to take a counteroffer.
Right. So when you flip scripts like this is advanced recruiting, guys. This is like a PhD in recruiting. It isn't just basic training. You have to understand psychology. You have to understand how to center the person that you're talking to, and to do so in a way that makes it so that you can still move your deal forward. Ego has no place on our desks. Okay. All right. Now, if you were just here to learn, now is your time to leave. Go get back on your desk, make some calls, try to put these techniques into play, send us emails and let us know how it goes for you, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you agree with, what blew your mind. We love those emails.
And try not to think about whatever it is that we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, thanks. And I hope you enjoyed the entire Crelate presentation. Make sure you send an email to Kortney and just let her know how amazing it is how she puts together these summits and brings people like Jason and I into the room for you guys. It's a big undertaking. Make sure you give her some gratitude for it. Thanks, Kortney. It's been our pleasure.
Yes, definitely tell Kortney how awesome she is for bringing us in.
Right? Okay, guys, we'll talk soon.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Oh, guys, I didn't pay them to say anything like that at the end. So I thank you so much for humoring the way that went today. I thought it was great. That's a wrap on this episode. If this one got you thinking, just wait until you hear what's coming next. We're dropping a new session from the FDE Plus Q1 event every week. Each one a different speaker, a different topic, and a different angle on what really takes to build relationship-driven revenue in this industry right now. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you there.